Greetings, adventurers, and welcome back to the Den of the Drake. Other dragons hoard gold while I hoard internet cringe. You know what really grinds my gears? The fact that Paladin is the #1 chosen class by RPGHorrorStories antagonists. Which really sucks because I have the same pathetic love for Paladins that Quentin Reviews has for Garfield, Soylent, and the Nostalgia Chick. I would argue that Paladins have the most potential for interesting role-playing moments out of any class in the game, but it's always overshadowed by those who like to don the plate armor of tomfoolery and smite the ever-loving bejesus out of any kind of human decency. These types of Paladins perform their lawful stupid shenanigans out of a need for attention. They need to simultaneously be the party's face and moral compass. It's like if someone were to place themselves as the central figure of a YouTube channel about D&D, and then ham-fist their own opinions and stories into the video as if it were an objective, oh my god, have I been that guy the whole time? Nah, that would require me to take responsibility for my actions, and I ain't about that shit. The story I have for you today stars one of these self-absorbed Paladin players, as they attempt to throw the alignment chart out the window and shoehorn chaotic evil douchebaggery into their lawful good character. How progressive. Now, without any further delay, let's go ahead and dive right into the horrifying world of r/RPGHorrorStories. Enjoy. This week's story comes from user Spicy Crab and is titled The Lawful Good Paladin Who Desperately Wanted to Be Evil. I've sat on this story for years after browsing this Reddit for quite a while, and I would love to vent it all out. The setup. New DM homebrews 5e campaign for all players, 7 in total. Forbids making evil characters to start because it's not an evil campaign. Everyone agrees. Characters: Ranger, me, Bard, Sorcerer, Monk, Barbarian, Paladin, the problem player. Paladin, out of game, was a real douche to play any game with, tabletop RPG or otherwise, as he was the kind of person who singularly derived enjoyment from annoying or ruining the games for others. In TTRPGs, he self-inserted and took everything said and done in character personally, and would out of character act out for it. Initially, he played his Paladin fine, albeit kinda weird. He had a bad habit of approaching NPCs and giving them vague statements of warning, and then never explaining himself, leading to a lot of unnecessary alarm and suspicion of the party. In his backstory, he wrote, he was a centaur, that he had a son and wife that died in a forest fire. So he loathed anything and everything that had to do with fire. This will become relevant later. He also stated in his backstory, without reading any of the DM's lore about centaurs, in which they were peaceful and migratory creatures, that he had participated in centaur wars, and had butchered babies and innocents, but was reformed now. This is also relevant because he constantly judged the party for disposing of hostile monsters and their eggs as baby killers, but would sit there and justify killing human babies for fun. As a centaur, he hated that the DM included ladders and doorways that he could not fit through in her world, and would mope and become very passive-aggressive and just stop participating in anything when they showed up, even when characters would stay behind to just hang out with him. Either way, he was a moose centaur, so he was unreasonably large. He constantly asked other characters despite taking an oath of ancients, tenets about love and happiness, yada yada. Extremely inappropriate and invasive sexual questions about their partners in character. And when they would be dodgy or not go his way, he would punish them out of character and hate them in real life. This actually happened with a monk, who he terrorized because he was not forthcoming with information. The Paladin could also not accept that his character had an intelligence score of 8, and would metagame despite being told that he would not know certain information. Example: there was a plague spreading that was turning people into zombies. This is high fantasy with no modern medicine. My ranger moved to action for a dying child that was literally vomiting blood and begging to see her parents again. My ranger held the child as she died and got covered in her blood. We don't know how diseases spread or how they work, as this world had never experienced anything like it. He refused to go near her, told everyone not to touch her blood, and despite being corrected and told that he has only 8 intelligence on top of not being a healer, he insisted and refused not to metagame. Okay, so despite knowing that this guy is gonna end up being the biggest tool imaginable, I actually really enjoy his character concept. His concept, not his execution. I want to make that very clear. The reason why I enjoy his character is for 2 reasons: his class and his race. Okay, that's all. Video's over. Bye, guys. Okay, but for real, let me explain. The reason why I enjoy Paladins so much is because their very nature imposes restrictions onto characters' roleplay abilities. Now, that may sound strange for me to list as a positive factor, but there's a reason for it. Self-imposed limitations force creativity. Because of your Paladin's code of honor, whether it is good or evil, their roleplay needs to reflect that code. This can lead to some incredibly entertaining and challenging roleplay moments, when they encounter things in the world that challenge their code or preconceived worldview. Boom! From level 1, all Paladins have opportunities for character progression. Whether they change for the better or for worse is up to you. Now, the Centaur does the same thing as a race as Paladin does as a class, but in a totally different way. Where the Paladin places self-imposed moral limitations, the Centaur places physical limitations. So just like you gotta think of ways to work with your Paladin's code, you have to think of ways to work around your Centaur's own anatomy. It creates a completely unique experience where you have to have a sort of symbiotic relationship with other characters in your party. Example: you can strike up deals with the wizard to let them use you as a mount if they help you figure out that damn ladder. Surprisingly enough, in a game where there are very little restrictions on what you can and can't do, some of the best characters I have ever played have come from when I added my own challenges to playing them. I definitely recommend giving it a try. Okay, now back to our regularly scheduled cringe. We caught on much later that he was cheating in nearly all of his rolls as well, especially when he would roll for health upon leveling up. He claimed to exclusively rolled 8s and above every single time for 9 levels. He never rolled in front of anyone, of course, as we had a trust system in this group since we had been friends for years and years, but had never played together before. But now we know better. This, and he would beef himself up only to never tank anything for the party. He would literally just run off and do only 1v1s away from everyone using whatever duel thing Paladins get. This made our encounters extremely hard. Okay, finally we come to the meat of the story. We were in a cave down at the base of a canyon investigating claims of a missing cleric. What we found was a succubus and her half-human child hoarding diamonds in an attempt to bring back the human parent, who was kept in a tomb nearby. Combat happened, and Paladin is thrilled that he gets charmed and starts fighting us. Of course, we win and start investigating the room to find this information. One of the items we discovered was a ring, who the monk reads as being hella evil. So he leaves it alone as we plan to seal the room off with a rock after we leave. Catching that we're leaving it, the Paladin runs back in and snatches the ring. When we asked why he did this, he said he wanted to cleanse it. Out of character, we knew better. But in character, we didn't. So our characters let it be. Cue the next several months of an evil entity within the ring reaching out to him and attempting to beguile him. Despite us passing through several churches after he picked it up with insanely powerful clerics, he never, ever gave it up and kept this evil ring tied directly onto his holy symbol. This ring led to possessions during boss fights that made him attack us. He loved this, f***ing with the party as a whole with illusions. He made my ranger appear to have an incurable plague that was ravaging the land. And eventually, it all came to a head when we fought a cult, and he f***ed us up due to a possession, and we nearly lost some party members. In character, we found out that he had kept the ring, and that it had corrupted his holy symbol, dimming his paladin powers. We took the ring off him and yeeted it into a jungle, but by then it was already too late, as what had been inside the ring the entire time was a powerful demon lord. The shit with the ring had gotten so bad at that point that we, in character as a party, no longer trusted him, and took specific spells to fight him and kill him if he were to turn on us at any point. When this came up out of character, he insisted that he would be able to beat us in a 1v6. Of course, he was really butthurt about his paladin powers, and after that refused to really help with anything when it came to combat. During the fight with the avatar of a god that the cultists were trying to bring back, he discovered that he would have to use a turn of movement to get across the huge room to be within striking range. He hated this, so he never moved the entire fight and did not do a single point of damage to the creature. He very promptly looted the room though, and claimed a staff that we were trying to give to the monk. But, as usual, he became extremely aggressive out of character, like yelling and cussing at everyone. So we eventually just dropped it. The staff had the evil god of fires symbol on it, and it was a staff of fire. When we asked about his backstory with the raging over fire in the beginning of the campaign, he merely shrugged and said, "He got over it." The DM used an NPC very shortly after that he liked to break the staff and take it away from him. This was the only way that he could possibly accept it being taken. We were on the east coast of the continent after a while, investigating some claims about the Elven King, when this dumbass finally prays to his god and asks for help. The god tells him that he must take a candle to the darkest place, light it, and then fight a demon. He is given a literal candle for this quest, and soon after this talk, the demon appears and goads him into lighting it. He does. Immediately, thinking that he's one-upping the demon or that it's a magic candle and won't burn out. Surprise! It was a regular candle. But the place we needed to go was all the way on the western side of the map, weeks of travel away from where we were. Bless the wizard for being fire-based. Mind you, this got him hated at the beginning of the campaign by the Paladin. The wizard cast Endless Flame on the candle to keep it from burning away. The next several months of sessions was fighting demons trying to snuff out the candle and traveling to this place. We eventually fight this demon, in which we almost horribly lose. Soon after, the player, out of character, left in real life, because he moved away, and that was his last session. DM, who is my partner, told me later that she had actually been in talks with him during this, in which he expressed that he would never choose to be evil, but would play it if it went that way, with the ring, and decided to make every single decision after that in attempt to force the DM to make him evil. He also lamented all the time that he would have loved to play a rogue instead, and steal our things, harass us, and essentially have the freedom to be even more of a dick. End of story. You know what I don't get? The redeemed villain backstory is one of my favorite cliches to use for my own backstories, and I have no idea how you can f*** it up this bad. I mean, from the backstory filled with baby murder and edgelord fodder, it's obvious that our boy had a sort of evil mentality about him while he made this character. So, did he just forget about the redemption part of the villain redemption arc? To be fair though, it sounds like he was sporting that evil alignment and 8 intelligence score outside of the game too. So maybe he's just a really good method actor. Now all he needs to do is remove his head from that centaur ass and he'll be golden. Now before we go, let's take a look at this week's Gallery of the Drake. This week's fan art comes from viewer Tyrants Ha, who illustrated a reflective piece featuring myself reading from a scroll of ancient knowledge. Hey, Larry! Yeah, Drake, what's up? Do you care to explain why we have a heating bill that's so damn expensive? I'm literally a creature that's partially made of fire. That could be the new hot tub. Okay, I'll go ahead and put it with the other bills that need to be paid. Thank you again, Tyrants, for submitting your art. If you want to see your artwork featured in Gallery of the Drake, be sure to send it to the email in my About section. Fan art is my favorite part of being a content creator, and it means the world to me that I can inspire artists like you to create artwork like this. With the story over and artwork displayed, we're gonna go ahead and wrap up. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you feel like supporting the channel further, Patreon and merchandise links are in the description. I would like to thank you all for listening, and I hope to see you next time in the Den of the Drake.